The final time that Chen Almog-Goldstein saw her daughter, she was dying on the floor of their home after being shot by a Hamas terrorist. Minutes earlier, her husband had also been killed. Chen and her surviving 3 children were forced to step over his body as they were led out of the safe room at gunpoint. There was no time to say goodbye.
He took this wooden plank and he stood there at the entrance to the safe room to protect his family, and then they broke into the safe room. I don't remember hearing gunshot, but there are shots on the door to the safe room. Maybe he managed to hit with this wooden plank, or I remember that I turned around and there were 4 or 5 of them inside the safe room yelling, and they shot Nadav in the chest, from very close range. In 2 or 3 places, he was lying like that with his arms up. He was quiet. I thought that maybe he was pretending.
They were bundled into their family car. CCTV from the Gaza border fence shows the car driving fast along a road and then turning off onto a dusty field.
Near the fence, they stopped and they started putting bodies into my trunk, the trunk of my car. And Agam said to the boys, "Don't look back, not to look back." Our abductors were overjoyed. They took a selfie picture. They took pictures of us in the back seat. I remember a Red Cross ambulance, and I was looking and kind of begging with this look that was asking for help, and he looked back at me with this helpless look.
For 7 minutes on the 7th of October, they were driven into Gaza. They would remain there for the next 51 days.
The first 2 days were in a tunnel, and in the last week we were in a tunnel, and in between we were in apartments. And the conditions in the apartments were not easy. The windows, they would try to open them a bit, but most of the day the windows, throughout the day, the windows were closed with these heavy curtains. So as far as air, ventilation, sunlight, we didn't have much of any of that. We had electricity only for like 90 minutes a day. There were entire days without electricity. And then when there's water, when there's running water, you need to decide who's going to shower. The kids showered. Sometimes they would shower. Sometimes it was a group of 4 or 5 men. Throughout these 7 weeks, I only showered once. I wanted the children to shower.
Shen, Agam, Gal and Tal were regularly moved by their Hamas guards from apartments above ground to tunnels below. The fighting was often close by, the sound of airstrikes frightening. There were times she was worried they might be killed by Israeli forces, not their captors.
It was really scary and dangerous. We were really in danger. When they took us out to the street and we walked down the street and we saw the devastation and destruction, it was really hard. These are terrible feelings. You're in the middle of a war. It's a battlefield. It's not that I was thinking, oh, good for us, we showed them. It was terrible. It was terrible to see the destruction, the devastation, the poverty, the children in the streets.
On the 26th of November, 2 days into a week-long ceasefire, Shen and her children were released.
We waited in this car for 5 hours. They said that they were waiting to receive a signal, a phone call from the Red Cross. Everybody around us, the masses were taking pictures of us. It was so humiliating and scary. We knew that Nadav and Yam were not waiting for us. It was one of our, saddest, happy moments, this return to Israel.
On Monday, fresh ceasefire talks resumed in Qatar. Hamas has softened its demands, but the Israeli government has still described them as unrealistic and delusional. Shen says a new truce is urgent to get the remaining hostages out, many of whom are badly injured.
We need to do everything possible in order to release the people who are still there as quickly as possible. We were there towards the end with the young women who were injured physically, some complex wounds, some of them with severed fingers, with holes in their hands. We were with someone from Kfar Aza, and she didn't even know whether her mother and brother are still alive. So with all that uncertainty, we need to do everything possible in order to release the people who are still there, to bring them back to their families, to bring them back to our country, and do everything possible so that they'll be released as soon as possible.